I am not going to discuss any conversations
That's
that
a no.
I have had with it.
And
You just put
your
words in
own
my
word-
mouth. I am
but-
not going to
No, I'm
discuss.
going to reveal your own words.
I am
Just a
not
moment.
going.
At 6:47 a.m. On a cold November morning, the United States Department of Justice announces the culmination of Operation Iron Highway, the largest coordinated federal takedown of a Mexican cartel transportation network ever executed on the East Coast. 103 individuals arrested. 17 locations raided simultaneously across Pennsylvania. Over 4 tons of cocaine, 2 tons of methamphetamine, 2.1 million fentanyl pills, and $37 million in cash seized from a single interstate freight corridor stretching from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. But the numbers only tell part of the story. What federal investigators discovered buried inside encrypted servers and hidden ledgers reveals something far more dangerous than another drug bust. This was a complete hijacking of America's commercial transportation infrastructure by a Sinaloa-linked distribution cell, orchestrated by a man who spent 20 years building trust, reputation, and access, while secretly turning Pennsylvania's most vital trucking routes into a narcotics superhighway for the Mexican cartels. And what you are about to hear will show you exactly how deep the corruption ran, how many people were paid to look the other way, and how close this network came to becoming permanent. The scale of what Marcus Langford built is almost incomprehensible to anyone outside law enforcement. This was not some small-time operation run out of a garage or a back alley. This was a fully integrated logistics empire that handled both legitimate freight and cartel narcotics simultaneously, using the legal side as cover for the criminal side. Langford's company employed over 200 people, operated a fleet of 140 semi-trucks, and maintained contracts with major retailers and manufacturers across the East Coast. His business was respected. His reputation was spotless. He attended industry conferences, gave speeches about supply chain efficiency, and mentored young entrepreneurs looking to break into the transportation sector. But behind that facade, he was running a shadow operation that moved more drugs in a single month than most cartels move in a year. The brilliance of his scheme was its invisibility. Everything looked legitimate because most of it actually was legitimate. The cartel did not replace the system. They simply embedded themselves inside it, moving their product alongside everyday consumer goods in trucks that no one would ever suspect. What makes this case even more disturbing is how many people inside the system enabled it. Federal investigators discovered that Langford had paid off officials at nearly every level of the transportation and regulatory infrastructure. He had contacts inside state transportation departments who fast-tracked his permits and overlooked discrepancies in his inspection records. He had sources inside highway patrol units who warned him when enforcement sweeps were planned along his primary routes. He had dispatchers at major freight terminals who prioritized his trucks for loading and unloading, ensuring his shipments never sat long enough to attract attention. He even cultivated relationships with economic development officials who viewed his company as a success story, a homegrown Pennsylvania business that created jobs and contributed to the local economy. Those officials became his unwitting defenders, vouching for him in public forums and steering contracts his way. And all the while, his trucks were carrying death across state lines, delivering fentanyl that would kill teenagers in Ohio, cocaine that would fuel gang violence in New Jersey, and methamphetamine that would destroy families in upstate New York. The human cost of Langford's operation cannot be measured in seizure statistics alone. Every kilogram of fentanyl that made it through his network represents hundreds of potential overdoses. Every shipment of methamphetamine fuels addiction cycles that tear apart communities for generations. Federal investigators estimate that the narcotics moved through Langford's corridor over the past 4 years contributed to at least 1,800 overdose deaths across the eastern United States. 1,800 people who died because one man decided that profit was more important than human life. 1,800 families who buried sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, parents, and friends. And those are only the deaths that can be directly traced. The real number is almost certainly higher. The ripple effects of addiction, the crime that follows the drug trade, the violence that erupts when distribution territories are contested, All of that blood is on Langford's hands. All of that suffering can be traced back to his decision to turn his trucks into delivery vehicles for the Sinaloa cartel. He did not pull the trigger. He did not press the pills. But he made it all possible. And in the cold calculus of the drug trade, that makes him just as guilty as the cartel operatives who manufactured the poison in the first place. 4:32 a.m., 15 hours before the press conference. The sky over Philadelphia is still dark, wrapped in freezing fog that clings to the warehouses and loading docks along Interstate 76. The streets are empty, except for a few idling semis and the distant glow of truck-stop neon. But beneath that silence, something massive is moving. Over 300 federal agents from the FBI, D, ICE, and Pennsylvania State Police SWAT teams have been positioned across the city for the past 6 hours. They are not here for one target. They are here for 17. At exactly 4:32 a.m., the raids begin. FBI tactical units smash through the steel roll-up doors of a freight warehouse in northeast Philadelphia. Flashbangs detonate in rapid succession, filling the space with white light and smoke. Agents in black tactical gear flood inside, rifles raised, voices cutting through the chaos. Hands up, get on the ground, do not move. Inside, they find rows of semi-trailers parked in perfect lines, engines cold, but cargo bays still loaded. The first trailer they open contains 48 pallets marked as restaurant supplies and commercial kitchen equipment. But when agents cut through the shrink wrap and pry open the industrial freezer units, they do not find food. They find vacuum-sealed bricks of cocaine stacked floor to ceiling, each one stamped with a small blue scorpion logo. The second trailer holds methamphetamine packed inside hollowed-out industrial machinery. The third contains fentanyl pills pressed into counterfeit prescription bottles labeled as heartburn medication and vitamin supplements. Across the city, another team breaches a logistics office in South Philadelphia. It looks legitimate from the outside. Company logo on the glass. Receptionist desk. Framed certifications on the wall, but inside the back office, agents find something else entirely. 3 men in business casual clothing are frantically shoving documents into a paper shredder when the door explodes inward. One of them tries to run. He makes it 4 steps before an agent takes him down hard against the tile floor. On the desk, federal investigators find encrypted laptops, burner phones still warm from recent calls, and a leather binder filled with handwritten route schedules, driver names, way station bypass codes, and cargo manifest templates. And in the corner of the room, stacked against the wall like forgotten office supplies, are duffel bags stuffed with cash. They count it later. $4 million. Small bills, rubber banded in bundles of 10,000. Simultaneously, in a quiet suburb outside Harrisburg, ICE agents surround a large colonial-style house with a circular driveway and security cameras on every corner. The homeowner is a mid-level cartel coordinator who has been living under a false identity for 6 years. When agents breach the front door, they find him in the kitchen trying to flush a cell phone down the toilet. He is detained without incident, but what they find in his basement changes everything. A dedicated server room, industrial-grade routers, encrypted communication hubs linked to distribution cells in 8 states, and printed on his desk a full organizational chart. Names, roles, payment schedules. At the top of the chart, circled in red ink, is a single name. Marcus Langford, owner and CEO of Keystone Freight Solutions, one of the most respected logistics companies in Pennsylvania. 7:14 a.m. Inside the FBI Cybercrimes Division field office in Pittsburgh, analysts are tearing through the encrypted hard drives seized from the raids. It takes them less than 3 hours to crack the first layer of security. What they see on the screen makes every person in the room go silent. A master network diagram labeled Operation Iron Highway. It is not a drug route, it is a logistics empire. Shell companies, front businesses, fake freight brokers, sham trucking contractors. All of them registered under different names, different addresses, but all of them linked back to a single nexus point. Marcus Langford. Langford is 53 years old. He has no criminal record. He has never been arrested. He has been in the transportation and logistics business for over 2 decades. He sits on the board of the Pennsylvania Trucking Association. He has donated to local police departments and veterans charities. His company, Keystone Freight Solutions, handles millions of dollars in legitimate contracts every year, moving goods for major retailers, food distributors, and manufacturing companies. But buried inside his encrypted network, federal investigators find something else. A second set of books. A parallel operation running alongside his legitimate business. And this operation has nothing to do with legal commerce. This is a cartel-controlled transportation corridor designed to move narcotics from the Mexican border to the East Coast without ever triggering a single red flag. The structure is brilliant. Langford did not just transport drugs, he built an entire ecosystem to protect them. He created fake freight brokerage firms that contracted with legitimate trucking companies, so the drivers themselves often had no idea what they were carrying. He used real shipping manifests for legal goods, but modified the cargo loads at specific transfer points where cartel operatives would swap out portions of the shipment with narcotics. He bribed weigh station operators to flag his trucks as pre-cleared. He paid off warehouse supervisors to alter inspection records. He installed cartel-linked dispatchers inside regional trucking hubs who could reroute shipments in real time if law enforcement activity was detected. And he used legitimate refrigerated trucks, construction equipment haulers, and agricultural transport vehicles because those categories receive less scrutiny on highways. Financial records show that Langford has moved over $900 million through ghost accounts, offshore holdings, and cryptocurrency wallets over the past 4 years. Wire transfers disguised as equipment leases and fleet maintenance costs. Payments routed through fake consulting firms in Delaware, shell LLCs in Nevada, and sham agricultural cooperatives in California. And every month, a percentage of that money flowed back to a Sinaloa-linked distribution cell operating out of Arizona and Southern California. The cartel did not just hire Langford.
And every
They
time my
embedded him.
report disappeared,
They
my
made him
supervisors
indispensable.
focused on
They
other
turned his
priorities.
entire
Know
business
why?
into a
He was one of
transportation
them.
artery
What had been built
for the
just a
largest
criminal
drug
network.
smuggling
It was a
operation ever
parallel,
discovered in
strategically
Pennsylvania.
embedded inside a community that
This is
trusted
not corruption.
to walk through Adelante's
This is
doors
command-level
for immigration,
collusion.
for job training.
This
for
is not
proofs they were
negligence.
real. This
This
and
is
that
engineered
legitimacy-
infrastructure for a drug empire. And what federal investigators are about to uncover will show that Marcus Langford was not working alone. 8:51 a.m. Inside a joint federal command center established at the Pennsylvania State Police headquarters in Harrisburg, a digital wall screen displays a map of the state covered in pulsing red markers. Each marker represents a location tied to Langford's network. Freight warehouses, trucking depots,
A shadow
fuel
infrastructure designed
stations,
to operate indefinitely,
weigh
protected
stations,
by the very institution.
storage facilities,
But Minnesota was only
private
the hub.
garages,
Analysts dug deeper
safe
into the
houses.
financial records.
Over
expanded.
70 sites
Ohio
identified
was the
across
point.
Pennsylvania,
It
with
was
secondary
camouflage,
connections
language
reaching
of
into
a
New
federal
York, New
indictment,
Jersey,
and
Maryland,
sophisticated
Ohio,
strategy
and
to
Virginia.
exploit
The
organizational
scope is
status
staggering.
as a mechanism
And
for
now,
financial.
the mission expands. At 9 a.m., Operation Iron Highway enters its second phase. Over 1,000 federal agents, backed by dozens of SWAT teams, helicopter units, K-9 divisions, and armored response vehicles, launch a coordinated eradication sweep across the entire state. This is not a raid. This is a siege. In the early morning light, Black Hawk helicopters circle above a cartel-controlled warehouse outside Reading, where agents on the ground discover a narcotics
Maine,
packaging operation in
Texas.
full swing.
Network had established node refugee communities
Industrial
across
shrink
the
wrap
country.
machines.
Each node operated
Vacuum
independently,
sealers.
but reported to the central command
Heat presses
structure
for
in
false
Jersey.
labeling.
The operation
And in the
stopped
back
at the
room,
Minneapolis
over
warehouse.
800
On the
kilograms
same
of
morning as the
methamphetamine
Avenue
waiting
raid,
to be distributed.
simultaneous federal
12
warrants
cartel
were
members are arrested
for
on site.
additional locations
Not one of
across
them
free-
resists. Simultaneously, federal agents storm a luxury home in the suburbs of Pittsburgh. The property belongs to a regional cartel facilitator who has been using the address to coordinate shipments across the Midwest. When agents breach the front door, they find him in the living room surrounded by bags packed for travel. On the kitchen table, they find 2 passports, one real and one fake, both with his photo. In the garage, they find a black SUV loaded with $70,000 in cash and
generated
4
revenue through
handguns.
the same methods. Benefits,
He is taken
fraud,
into
identity
custody
theft, wire
without
transfers,
incident.
labor trafficking, and
But
all of it fed into
It is
an
what they
offshore
find in
account.
his home
He didn't
office
stay-
that matters
In
most.
Chicago,
Printed
Illinois,
emails
at 3
between
a.m.
him and
Central
Marcus
Time,
Langford.
H executed a
Shipping
search warrant
confirmations.
at a freight logistics company
Route
on South Hall
schedules.
Street, a trucking
Payment
operation that,
authorizations.
according to federal documents,
Digital breadcrumbs that tie Langford directly to cartel logistics. Across the state, federal teams hit trucking yards, fuel depots, and distribution hubs. They seize over 60 semi-trucks. They recover an additional 2 tons of cocaine, 1,500 pounds of heroin, and another 1 million fentanyl pills. They arrest truck drivers, warehouse supervisors, logistics coordinators, dispatchers, and dock workers. Some cooperate immediately.
Overseas,
Others
though.
refuse to
It came
speak.
back. It came back.
the
Investments
evidence
in
does
legitimate
not need their
businesses,
testimony.
Real estate purchase,
The ledgers,
political
the
donations,
manifests,
full contributions
the
to
encrypted
university
messages,
hospitals that would
the wire
S
transfers.
$6.8 million
It all points
for
back to
token-active
Marcus
currency
Langford.
over 18 months.
And
Bundling
by
cash
3:00
into
p.m.,
outbound freight
federal
ships.
agents have
3
enough to move on
individuals
him
were taken
directly.
into custody.
3:47
Agents
p.m., Marcus Langford is sitting in his office on the top floor of the Keystone Freight Solutions headquarters building in Allentown when FBI agents walk through his door. He does not run. He does not resist. He looks up from his desk, adjusts his tie, and asks if he needs to call his attorney. The lead agent tells him yes. He is going to need one. Langford is arrested on federal charges, including conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, money laundering, racketeering,
never
and
questioned
operating
where
a
the funds
continuing
originated or
criminal
wasn't
enterprise.
just extracting wealth from America.
His office
it was
is
using that
sealed.
wealth to buy
His
influence,
computers are
stability,
seized.
and
His
protection.
bank accounts
One
are
file
frozen.
complete. Phase
And within
3.
hours, federal
$873,000
investigators
in
begin
currency
tearing apart
and
every
212
transaction,
kilograms of bulk
every email,
stored in a
every
secondary
phone call
rear
he has
was
made
here.
over the past
In
6 years.
Wisconsin,
What they
at
find is a trail of
3:19
betrayal
a.m.
that runs deeper than anyone expected. Langford did not just move drugs. He infiltrated the system. He bribed county-level officials to expedite his company's permits and inspection approvals. He paid off dock supervisors at major freight terminals to allow his trucks priority loading access. He hired former law enforcement officers to work as fleet managers, giving his operation an air of legitimacy and insider knowledge of how agencies conduct inspections. And most disturbingly, he cultivated relationships
Expand
with
influence
local
to federal
legislators
level.
and economic
In progress.
development
Phase
boards,
4.
positioning
Achieve permanent
himself as a
operational
champion of
immunity through
Pennsylvania
legislature.
jobs and
The
infrastructure
target date for
investment,
Phase 4 completion,
all while
2028.
using those
Agents
same
raided
resources
tax
to
preparation
transport
National
narcotics
Avenue,
for the
identify
Sinaloa
Adelante
cartel.
Financial
But the
Records
corruption
as a
does
secondary
not stop
deposit
with
aggregator.
Langford.
2 individuals
As federal
arrested.
investigators dig deeper into
$418,000
seized communications, they uncover a network of complicit officials who helped keep the operation running. A senior logistics compliance officer at a state transportation authority who falsified inspection records for Langford's fleet in exchange for $20,000 per month. A weigh station supervisor who provided advance notice whenever state police planned random truck inspections along Interstate 80. A deputy at a county sheriff's office who leaked information about ICE enforcement activity along trucking corridors.
One FBI analyst
A
read
regional
the Dottie
Port
Times
Authority
before
administrator
speaking. They
who
weren't
approved
trying to
expedited
hide.
cargo
They were trying
clearances
to make
for
hiding
shipments tied to
unnecessary.
Langford's
Wanted to
shell
become the
companies.
system itself. 3 days
These
after
were
the
not
initial orders
low-level
recovered.
opportunists.
22
These were
bank accounts
experienced
for immediate
professionals in
seizure
positions of
proceedings.
trust who
In
chose
North
money
Dakota
over duty.
At 4:02 a.m.
Federal
rental
agents
property
arrest
connected to an
14
alias
government
appearing
employees
seventh
and
in the Ottawa-
contractors over the next 72 hours. Some of them break down during interrogation. Others remain defiant. One former state trooper who worked as a logistics consultant for Langford tells investigators he thought he was just helping a legitimate business navigate regulatory red tape. But when agents show him the ledgers proving he
United
received
States. The combined
$300,000
statutory
over
maximum,
2
600
years,
years in federal
his story
prison.
falls
His
apart.
attorney released
Another
a
official,
statement.
a transportation
Governor
planning
Ellington
coordinator,
maintained innocence and
admits
looks
he
forward
knew
to
something
his
was
day,
wrong,
but
but convinced himself it was not his job to ask questions.
None of which had
The
conducted
betrayal
any
is not
documented
loud.
commercial
It is
in the
quiet.
preceding 3 years.
It is institutional.
In Kansas City, Missouri,
It is the
4:44
slow
a.m.
erosion of integrity in exchange for envelopes of cash and promises that no one would ever find out. Federal investigators expand their analysis to the continental scale. They trace Langford's network beyond Pennsylvania and discover a distribution web that reaches into 12 states. His trucks carried narcotics from
The
cartel-controlled
evidence spoke
consolidation
louder than its
points in
release.
Arizona,
Digital
Texas,
signatures,
and New Mexico,
authorization keys,
moving them
cryptic
east through
communications,
Oklahoma,
find records showing
Kansas,
payments
Missouri,
directly
and
into accounts
Illinois
he controlled.
before entering
And
Pennsylvania.
commercial
From there,
storage facility
the drugs were
was
broken
searched
down
to
into
warrant
smaller
time to the
shipments
same
and
investigation.
redistributed to markets
Inside
in
a
New
control
York,
unit
New
rented under
Jersey,
false business,
Massachusetts,
$1.1
Maryland,
million was
Virginia,
bundled.
and the Carolinas. The entire system was designed to mimic legitimate interstate commerce so seamlessly that even experienced highway patrol officers would not recognize it as criminal activity. The financial side is even more staggering. Forensic accountants trace Langford's money flows through 17 countries.
Testimony. Over the weeks,
Payments
11
disguised
grading
as
witnesses
equipment
came forward.
purchases
Former
routed
network
through
members
logistics
who had
firms
decided
in
that
Panama.
prison was preferable to what consequences
Real
awaited
estate
them if they
acquisitions
stayed
in
silent. They
Costa
described
Rica
me to
and
government
Belize under
Two
shell
short
company
barrel
names.
firearm and a hard drive containing
Cryptocurrency
financial records
transactions
that federal
converted
hounds
into
spend the
cash at
following
exchange
2 weeks
offices
decoding.
in Mexico City
total
and
seizure across
Guadalajara,
5
and
locations.
monthly payouts to over 60 individuals across the United States who served as drivers, coordinators, spotters, and enforcers. The network moved an average of 12 tons of narcotics per month through the Pennsylvania corridor alone. That is 144 tons per year. Billions of dollars in
There's
street
mansion.
value.
Stratagems
All of
about
it
which
moving through
officials to
highways
target
that
for
millions of
recruitment.
Americans
Discussions
drive on
about how
every
to
day.
through state contract. Plans
And buried
to
in
expand
Langford's
the operation to
encrypted
neighboring
files,
states.
investigators find
A former
something even
county
more chilling: a long-term expansion
in
plan.
recovered.
The
212
cartel
kilograms
wanted to
ice,
replicate the
22
Pennsylvania
fives,
model in other
31
states:
encrypted storage devices,
Ohio,
83
Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. The goal was to create a permanent, protected network of transportation corridors across the Midwest and East Coast, insulated by bribed officials and shielded by legitimate business infrastructure. Langford was not just a contractor, he was a prototype.
for
proof
Northern
of
Lights
concept.
charities testified
And
that
if this
Ellington
operation had
approved
not
the
been
trafficking of
exposed,
over
the
200
cartel
women
would have
through the
rolled out the
network's
same
transit
model
called
in
them
city after
inventory,
city,
the witness said.
state after
Treated them
state,
like they were
until
products
the
of
entire
bank
commercial
accounts
trucking
flagged
system
for seizures.
became a hidden pipeline
and
for
documentation
narcotics.
pointing to a
This was
financial
not
architecture
infiltration.
forensic
This
accounting
was
teams
redesign.
had moved in excess
This was
of
the
$40
transformation of
in
American
illicit proceeds
infrastructure
across a
into cartel infrastructure. And it almost succeeded. The arrests continue for weeks. By the time the operation is officially concluded, 103 individuals are in federal custody: cartel operatives, truck drivers, warehouse workers, logistics coordinators,
The
compliance
operation
officers,
that began in Minneapolis
government
touched
contractors,
17 states.
and at the center of it
Over
all,
1,100
Marcus Langford,
individuals were
the man
arrested.
who turned a
89
trusted
million
Pennsylvania
assets were
business
seized.
into a
40 men
narcotics
were
superhighway for the Sinaloa
4
cartel.
individuals were arrested
The
across
evidence
5
against him
locations
is
in
overwhelming.
48 hours.
Federal
Charges
prosecutors
included
filed
conspiracy
charges
to
that could
launder
result
monetary
in life
and
imprisonment.
structuring violations.
His company is dismantled. His assets are seized. His reputation is destroyed. But the damage he enabled cannot be undone. 4 tons of cocaine, 2 tons of methamphetamine, 2.1 million fentanyl pills. Those numbers represent lives, families,
Rescued from trafficking situations.
communities.
Fraudulent benefits
Every
claims
pill that
totaling
made
into
it to the street
$340
is someone's
million
son or
fine
daughter
and
who
referred for
overdosed in a
prosecution.
bathroom.
And the investigation
Every brick
is
of
still
cocaine
ongoing.
is a neighborhood
Possession
torn
with
apart
intent
by
to
addiction and
distribute,
violence.
fraud, federal grant fraud,
Every
and
kilogram of
bribery
meth
public
is a
officials.
generation of people
Combined
lost to a
maximum
chemical
sentencing
that
exposed across
destroys the
all
brain
named
and the
defendants.
body.
312 years.
And Marcus Langford facilitated all of it. Not because he was desperate, not because he had no choice, but because it was profitable. Because he believed he was too smart to get caught. Because he thought the system could be gamed, the officials could be bought, and the consequences would never reach him. But consequences always
Others
come.
have indicated that
They
additional
came in the
are
form of
expected.
300
More
federal
co-offices
agents
are coming
smashing through
forward.
doors at
More
dawn.
servers are being
They came in the
network
form
that
of
called its
encrypted
Project
servers
Crescent took
that could
nearly a
not stay
decade to
hidden
build.
forever. They came in
At
the
a
form
press
of one
conference 2
honest
days after the
investigator
raids,
who saw a
Chill agent
pattern
in
no
charge
one
of
else
the
noticed
FBI
and
Minneapolis
refused to let
office
it go.
stood up and said something that has
Power does
remained
not always
in the
need
public's
violence to
sense.
take over.
He said,
Sometimes it only needs silence. Ambition. A willingness to compromise. And a network of people who convince themselves that looking the other way is not the same as being complicit. But every person who took money from Marcus Langford made a choice. Every official who falsified a record or
Years to
ignored a
fully
red
dismantle
flag
tells us that
contributed
the
to a
most
system
dangerous
that
threats don't
flooded
always come
American
outside
streets
our
with
borders.
poison.
Sometimes they grow
And
in our
now they will
institutions.
answer for it.
Inert silence and enabled by
Operation
ambition.
Iron
the
Highway
most
is over.
effective organizations don't look
But
like
the war is
organizations.
not.
They look
For
like
every
neighbors.
network that
They
gets
look like
taken
community
down,
members.
another
They
one is
look like
being
people
built.
doing good, not an accident.
For every
That is
corrupt
a
official
strategy.
who gets arrested, another one is being recruited. The cartels are patient. They are strategic. They do not fight the system head on. They infiltrate it. They buy it. They turn it into their own. And the only thing standing between that future and the collapse of our institutions
tells
is
us
vigilance,
that a lot of things. Influence,
accountability,
protection, legitimacy, but
and
it
the
cannot
refusal
be
to accept
forever.
that corruption
The women trafficked through
is
this
just
net,
the way
they were
things
real
are.
people, with families, with hope.
If you are still
This
watching
story
this,
is not just
tap
made
the
on a
like
building
button
in
so more
Minneapolis,
people
of
see
the
this story.
architecture of
Comment
concealment,
expose
the way
if you believe
financial crime
corruption
in
like
our
this
century
needs to be
wraps
dragged
itself
into
in
the
legit-
light.
in paperwork.
Share this video if you think the public deserves to know how deep these networks really go. Because the truth does not spread itself. It needs people who are willing to amplify it. People who are willing to say this is not acceptable. People who refuse to stay silent